I want to get into some sports, my man. Are you ready to talk? And we talk niche sports. We're ready. Are you ready?
Yes, I absolutely am. Let's go,
Oh,
buddy.
all right. Let's do it. So you talked about softball, and right now the College World Series is happening, both in men's baseball and women's softball. Women's softball is a sport that I almost never hear about unless there's a really dominant team or the Olympics are here. Now, even in the Olympics, softball was done with, right? For a few years, I think they're bringing it back, or they did bring it back. Right now, though, in women's softball, there is a team that I don't think has ever been seen and is unprecedented in the Oklahoma Sooners. And I'm sure that you're tangentially familiar with their dominance.
Yeah, I mean, I know that they've been tearing people up for sure recently. I'm not fully aware of all the details, but statistically, which I'm sure that's your niche and you're about to fill me in, I'm sure.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I am. But the thing is their dominance has gone kind of under the radar the last few years. And what has happened basically over the last 15 years or so, they've become the Connecticut Huskies, essentially, of women's softball. But their dominance is it's just so spectacular. And you and I both know that we love the underdog, but sometimes you have to give props to these teams that are just flat out better than everybody. So I want to read just some of the stats of this year's team. Keep in mind, they're going for, I believe, their third straight national championship or fourth straight because I don't think there was one in 2020. They have been dominant for a while, and now they're finally getting national attention, even though they've been doing this for a while. So right now, I think they're 55-2, which in a sport like softball, you know this with baseball, so many fluke things happen. So to have 57 games and lose two, and from what I understand, those two losses were on short rest and off of like a back-to-back or something like that. So they had them at a disadvantage, and they were both ranked teams that they lost to. So 55-2 right now, and they're on, I think, a 49 or 50 game win streak. Just think about that for a minute. That's what, a quarter or more of a baseball season?
Yeah, that's absolutely insane. Like you said, when you consider all of the little things, a ball bouncing one way or the other, I feel like baseball. I was talking to some friends about this because the high school baseball softball tournaments are kind of wrapping up here, culminating here locally in Illinois. And there were a couple games we were talking about, and one of them, talking about stats, there's a local team, Peoria, Illinois, local high school team, not known to be a baseball powerhouse by any means. They're very good at basketball and stuff, not a baseball school. They went 8-23 in their regular season, and then they won their regional championship, and they lost. A team had to come back and beat them in the sectional championship. They just got hot at the right time and had the right things happening. And I said, is there anything else like baseball, and I think even basketball. Baseball and basketball are two sports where really truly anybody can beat anyone on any given day. Like football, football's too physical. Where like if your team is the more physically strong dominant team, it's really hard to overcome that. Not that people don't, but it's more difficult. Softball, baseball, basketball, the ball can roll, the ball can bounce a certain way. You get a hot shooter, a hot pitcher, and anything is possible. And that's one of the most exciting things about it. And that's what makes this streak by Oklahoma or the record so impressive because I guarantee you things have not always gone their way and they've been talented enough to overcome it.
Not to mention the fact that apparently they replaced who was like the preeminent player of all time, Jocelyn Alo. She had 122 career home runs in her collegiate career. 122 home runs in amateur softball. And you even talked about when in football, you have two teams that are just not physically, matched up against each other. And especially at the amateur level, those differences and that chasm gets even wider. So you talk about in amateur sports now. So they replace all these people. Apparently, they had a lot of turnover. Well, I just want to give you some stats here. Their team average is 369. So their team average is almost 400. They have three girls hitting over 400 in their starting lineup. Keep in mind, the last person to do that was Ted Williams, and that was like 70 years ago.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, because especially, and I think with softball, when you consider how small the diamond is, very small and compact. It's a fast game. It's a great game to watch because the pitch, yeah, if you watch a radar gun, it's not coming in. It's not. You're not going to see the numbers you're seeing from college baseball pitchers, even high school baseball pitchers. One, the trajectory of the ball makes it extremely difficult. The distance is not great. I don't know what it is officially, but it's not very far, and that ball gets on you in a hurry. I mean, it's essentially the equivalent of a 90-mile-an-hour fastball from 60 feet, 6 inches away. When that ball's in play, man, like, it's just instant chaos. I mean, and chaos isn't a great word, but everything happens so damn fast, and just it's the bases are close enough that you could beat out a grounder to short. It's like a 50-50 play, right? There's no guarantees that a routine ground ball is going to be an out. Like, you have to be on top of it. And it's almost the opposite of baseball. Baseball is sort of a lazy game in a lot of ways, especially at the pro level. It feels that way. The field's very large and the game's a little slow. Softball is not that, man. Not at all. And it's wonderful.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is like everything is a lot faster. And so there's a lot more pressure. So they've also scored 515 runs in 57 games, which is 100 more runs than the next best team. 100 more runs. There are some teams who just probably haven't even scored 100 runs all season, and they've 100 more than the next place team. But they not only hit well, they lead the league in team ERA. Their team ERA, this is almost laughably stupid. 0.80 is their team ERA.
That's nuts. I mean, and that's one thing that's interesting too about softball is you could have a dominant pitcher that and in softball you can pitch every day because of the arm motion. You don't it doesn't have the same wear and tear on your body and on your shoulder and everything else like traditional baseball does. And that's one advantage I guess that comes to baseball is if you can weather the ace, you can get yourself in deeper into the rotation and see a lesser pitcher. Softball, you get the ace every day. And to think about that though, to be on your game every single day, every time out, and to hold up an ERA that's impressive like that over time as a program is just ridiculous.
Yes. So these are the two stats that I think are the most impressive and also will make you laugh. Statistically speaking, and people have done these actual calculations based off of their dominance. First of all, they've shut out 32 teams this year, which is nuts. So you've got 55 wins and 32 shutouts. So that's great. But when their opponents step out on the field, statistically speaking, they have a 3% chance to win before the pitch has even been pitched. Okay. So that's amazing. And that has to be something that gets in your head. Like, I know that all these teams and coaches want to say, like, it doesn't matter who we're playing. We're going to go out there and play our game. But this is way different. Like, this is a team that has everything that you don't. And you have to have literally everything go right and still pray. So there's that. But also, every single time Oklahoma steps out in the field, they have a 61.4% chance to win by the mercy rule because that's how often they have mercy ruled the team this year. And so I wanted to bring it up here because it's not a sport anybody really talks about unless you know it. And I'm sure that your wife is probably tangentially aware of these teams and these dynamics and all that. But like, that's amazing. And those ladies need to get props somewhere. And why not here?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even they have a freaking mercy rule, man, in
Yes.
NCAA softball.
Yes.
That's great, probably because of teams like this.
Yep.
Um,
They've won some games like 20-0, the mercy rule, and they just end the game because that's how bad it gets.
my goodness. I tell you what, the secret to being dominant, in my opinion, is that you have to coach your kids. When you come out, you've got to establish that dominance immediately because everybody wants a shot at the champ, right? Until you get out there and actually, feel the heat a little bit. And if that's where these upsets happen, is that if you give somebody hope, like hope's a powerful thing. If you give somebody hope that they have a chance, crazy things can happen. So when you're the top dog, you've got to come out and make that known immediately. Like you got to come out and be dominant right off the gate. And it's hard to do that. It's hard to be on top of it. But the thing is, I guarantee you, in this case, like if Oklahoma, if they come out and they dominate for the first 3 innings, the game's over, right? I mean, like the other team is they've packed their bags, they're done. They've realized they stand no chance, and that's the secret, though. I think to dominance and dominance over the long haul. And this is total side note, but it makes me think of that story we heard about Kobe Bryant in the Olympics with Pau Gasol. Have you seen that clip or whatever? Where he's like, I'm going to go out there and I know what play they're going to run, and Pau's going to set a pick, and I'm going to run right through his chest because he wanted to set the tone right away that I'm here to win, that I'm the top dog, I'm better than you. This isn't you may be my buddy or whatever, but it doesn't matter. Like this is serious and it's important to me, and you kind of have to do that when you're the alpha. That's what you have to do right out of the gates.
That's a good point, and I didn't think about that, but it's a perfect segue into our next topic. So before we move on, though, I want to say to the Lady Sooners, I hope that you continue that dominance. I know that some people will say it's not good for the sport, but honestly, I think that the more women's teams that there are that get this kind of shine, the better. And so I hope that they keep being dominant because you know what? It might get some poor schlep like me to actually tune in to watch their dominance because they are that good. But